Okay, welcome to the video on catching a wave on your stand-up paddle foil, and we're going to cover how to catch a wave that's not even breaking, medium waves, and then bigger chest to head high waves, and the technique you want to use for those different situations. Check out the link in the description for tutorials on using your hips, the J-stroke, and our sprint technique videos, as those will be valuable skills that you make sure you're learning to use to apply when taking off. So the first thing I want to make sure I mention is that you are going out and setting yourself up for success by foiling in an area that does not have any surfers in the water with you. Unless you're an advanced foiler, you shouldn't be within 50 feet of another surfer, and even then I would make that 100 to 200 feet. Just plenty of room that you're nowhere near other surfers in the water. And then even advanced foilers should not be surfing in any kind of crowds. Then you also want to make sure you're picking waves that are mushy. Steep, fast closeouts or even steep waves are not ideal foil waves for advanced foilers, and certainly not for beginners, okay? So with all that being said, let's dive in. First thing I want to point out is when I start paddling. So this is going to be a wave that's not really even breaking. So the wave is going to form right here, and I'm slowly going to be beginning my stroke while the wave is still about 20, 30 feet away, because I'm on a tiny board, and even if you're not on a tiny board, the foil is going to cause the board to not really want to accelerate that fast. So if you watch our sprint technique video, you'll see how we want to build our cadence and increase the acceleration of the board by starting kind of early, okay? So the wave is approaching, the wave energy. I want you to notice I'm forward on the board. This board is 6'6", and I'm towards the middle, if not front portion of the board. My back foot is slightly in front of my mast. You can't see it right now, but my back foot's slightly in front of my mast. My hips are forward, and my mass is forward on the board, okay? So I'm stroking, I'm low with my hand, low to the water, producing good leverage. Again, all that stuff will be covered in the hips video and the sprint video, and also pointing out that I'm paddling on my right side. I'm regular foot, so I want to be paddling on my right side because that's the side my hips are going to be facing. If you're goofy foot, you'll want to be on the left, and the J-stroke is going to help you a lot for that. Okay, so as I'm low, I'm driving from my hips, also really important, and I'm forward on the board. Now, as the wave energy hits the foil in my board here, that's when I really want to be producing the most power and increasing my cadence the most, because I want to tap into that energy, especially waves that are not breaking, as this wave energy is going to show you. And this is also valuable for downwind foiling as well. So that energy is hitting my board here. This is where I'm starting to pump my foil up onto a flying mode, okay? So the way I'm going to be doing that is driving through my hips, producing power, and now here I'm driving down with my back foot while lifting up with my front foot. So you can think about doing both of those simultaneously, or you can kind of just think about lifting your front leg, and by default, your back leg is going to have all the weight shift to it, and that will also be a little bit effective. But if you can think about lifting with your front and driving down with your back, that's going to help. So as you can see, what that does is as that foil taps into the wave energy, the nose of my board comes up because I'm producing a positive angle with the wing below, and that is going to help create lift. And you could see it already is starting to produce some positive lift with my mass coming out of the water as it taps into this wave energy here. So I'm just going to show that again. I'm driving forward and then de-weighting my front foot as that wave energy hits, weighting my back foot, bringing the nose up, and then driving down here again so that I'm basically pumping, which you'll want to watch our videos on pumping and trimming as well to really dial this in. But then I'm doing it again, and now I'm up on foil, okay? Easier said than done, and I'm going to show you a closer view here, but let's just play that forward kind of in real time again. Okay, so I'm paddling early to get my speed up, quickening my pace, driving front foot, and now I'm up on foil, okay? So we're going to see this a little bit closer here. Again, another small wave. You see I'm forward on the board. My front foot is almost off the board. I also want to mention my stance is staggered. Obviously, if I have a parallel stance, I'm not going to be able to drive with that back foot. So we also want to be working on staggering our stance, okay? So I'm low, front foot is forward, back foot towards the middle and over the mast, okay? I'm driving down. Here's that wave energy hitting my board. Okay, driving with my hips. You see my feet are still forward. And now as I tap into that energy, you'll see I step back there. All right, and that's another thing that's going to help. What I'm doing is I've tapped into that energy. I'm starting to get positive angle on my wing. And so now I can step my foot back slightly so it's more over the mast to produce positive angle and help with the trimming. And now I'm pumping up into that energy. Okay, so I'll play that real time again so you can see it. Okay, right here, positioning myself for the wave. I'm going to start with my J-stroke, paddling early, get up to speed, increasing my power, forward pumping by lifting my front leg up and driving with my back. Okay, again, I can't stress how important paddling with power and timing is in popping up, especially when it's small, okay? And being able to pop up in small waves, especially when you're learning, is super valuable because you're going to have less consequence. The bigger the wave, a lot of times the harder it is to trim and control the drop. And I just find it's really fun to be able to get into small, rippable waves as well that don't even break. A lot of times, those are some of my more fun days is when I'm able to get in early. So again, the timing of this wave, okay, paddling early, low, driving from my back foot down, lifting the front, and then you'll see me hop back as that board taps into the energy while I'm still maintaining the pump, okay, to get the board up and on to foil. Okay, so this wave's slightly bigger here. As my nose starts to dive low, that's when I really want to be producing the most power, and then driving with that back foot, lifting with the front. Driving with the back foot, lifting with the front. Driving with the back foot, lifting with the front. This is Brian at our February 2020 camp. Really proud of him because this is something we worked on, tapping into a wave that wasn't even breaking. Okay, so you can go back at the end of this video. I'm going to play everything through in real time so you can watch it again. Now, this is a slightly bigger wave. And in bigger waves, our technique, we're not going to have to think about necessarily driving with that back foot, lifting with the front as much because we don't need to produce as much positive lift because the wave is going to kind of do that with the energy and power of a bigger wave, okay? And not having to really produce it so much through pumping because we're going to be able to tap into that with the wave. So I'm still paddling early to get my board up to speed a little bit because I am dragging the foil and sinking on a tinier board. I'm low. I'm driving now. I'm tapping into that energy, and we still want to be taking the same approach as we would in a small wave because I don't want to necessarily have to catch these bigger waves right in the critical spot over here where I would be if I was maybe surfing because it's just going to make for a harder, maybe more dangerous takeoff, and we don't necessarily need to be there. So I'm low. As my foil starts to tap into that energy underneath, I'm going to step back. See how I step back with my front foot and back foot, just nice little shuffle. I'm low, and I don't really need to be that aggressive in my pop-up, in my pump, because the wave energy is doing that. Now I'm really just controlling for trim by staying low and actually making sure that I'm not getting too much positive lift here because I do have all that energy. If I kind of just come up too much right here and get too high on my mass by lifting my front foot and trimming too high, I'll probably overfoil and breach and just come out of the water because it's a bigger wave, and the angle of the wave being hollow and steep is not going to allow for me to come up super high. So you'll see me staying low and actually trimming to control for that, and staying with, you know, front foot pressure. My back foot's not going to come too far behind the mass, and I'm low and forward to control. And you'll see I actually come up kind of high here towards the bottom with all that energy. And now I'm going to get out in front of the wave and then produce my bottom turn. And we'll cover that in another video as well that we'll link to in the description once it comes out, of the line that we want to take as we drop. But I just want to point out what we're focusing on is the takeoff, how it's different in that I don't need to be as aggressive with the pump in producing lift because the wave is going to kind of do that for me. So I'm back, and now I'm really just trying to control more the lift that the wave is giving me rather than producing the lift on an unbroken wave. So you'll see here, again, this is a steeper wave in a more critical position. I'm still forward on my board. I'm paddling low, all right, but I'm not having to do nearly as much movement with my feet, and it's just kind of going into position. Again, here with this wave, okay, let's go back and I want to show you this wave again. I'll just let it play in real time. So not a lot of foot movement, just controlling the trim there. And then right here, just one stroke, controlling the trim, not wanting to get too high right here because the wave is steep. I could potentially keep going and then I would breach if I kept that line. So my goal here is to shift my hips forward, get that weight on my front foot by shifting my hips forward, shifting my knee forward. Again, that'll be covered in detail in the trimming video. And then controlling the lift on the way down and not necessarily having to produce a ton of lift, okay? So I hope that makes sense, and I hope you see the difference, but I really can't stress how important it is to really try to master the technique of taking off in an unbroken wave through that timing of making sure you're paddling early, okay, using your hips, using the J-stroke, getting low so you have good leverage, using that sprint technique, again, all covered in other tutorials in detail, and then all those combining to help you get up in a wave that's not breaking, and then also using that same technique in bigger waves. But hope this makes sense for this video where we focus just on the takeoff, and really each of those elements of using the hips, using the J-stroke, trimming are going to be another detailed tutorial video that deserve their own focus. Okay, so you can come back to this video. I'm going to let it play through so you can see these takeoffs, watch the techniques I'm using, and apply them in your progression and learning.